This day while Cameron was playing a game with his son, a wave of dizziness and tinnitus came over him. His head was spinning. He fought back the pain and switched off the call before he fainted. The clone in the other room slowly opened his eyes. He had implanted all of Cameron's memories. He had become Cameron. The doctor told him the truth about being a clone, that he was just a replacement for Cameron. After hearing the story, James didn't resist the idea, but quickly accepted the fact, because he had a happy family in his head, and he wanted to protect it too. There are no beliefs in the world that are the same, and even less to people that are exactly the same. But what if everything about this person is exactly the same as another? The next day, Cameron woke up and learned about the clone's awakening. He went to the lab first and saw James smiling and sharing sweet memories of his wife. He entered the room with mixed feelings. The moment they met, they were both a little nervous, as if they were meeting an old friend they hadn't seen in years. There was a bit of déjà vu, but it was incredibly strange. In order to ensure that there are no accidents, the two will live together for a period of time. Doctors will look at the details of their lives to make sure the clone is flawless. But to Cameron's horror, the two are identical in personality and lifestyle. The difference is that Cameron is a dying man, while James will live a healthy life. Soon the project will reach its final stage of evaluation. The clone James will replace Cameron and talk to his wife by video. At first, James was a little nervous when the call wasn't connected, but the moment he sees his wife, he suddenly becomes very relaxed. It's not hard to explain. There are scientific studies on this phenomenon. It's simply genetic selection. He replicated Cameron's genes, so he instantly fell in love with a woman in the video. But the more passionate he talked to Cleary, the more hideous Cameron's face became. Because his wife was so in tune with him, she was convinced he was him. Finally, he couldn't stand it anymore. He cut the video call in anger. He couldn't accept that his happiness was being enjoyed by someone else. Love is selfish, so selfish that you can't even share it with yourself. Their argument soon turned into a fight. The fight ended when Cameron fainted. After calming down, James began to blame himself. The phone call with his wife made him forget about his clone. But the doctor calmly told him that it wasn't his fault because they shared the same memories and that he wasn't fundamentally different from Cameron. Afterwards, James approached the clone and apologized. Cameron, not surprisingly, forgave him. He knew in his heart he couldn't accept it at all, but he also knew in his heart that James could give his wife happiness instead of himself. Wasn't that what he wanted? The next day, Cameron packed his bags and went home. He planned to see his wife and children for the last time. On the other hand, James, looking at the image translated from his contact lens, poked the pencil at the only mark that proved he was a clone. He didn't complain. He also wanted to live happily with his wife and son. But the accident came as a surprise. Cameron had just arrived home when he fell once again. He frantically tried to keep from passing out, because if his wife saw him, all their efforts would be in vain. Luckily for him, his wife turned her back on the yard and didn't see him. Finally, he resisted the temptation of death and managed to escape from death once again. He stumbled back into the car. He realized that he was no longer capable of appearing properly in front of his wife and children. He protested to the heavens, but before he could speak, he fainted and fell once again. With the video signal gone, they had no choice but to activate the alternative plan. Afterwards, Cameron was sent back to the secret base, and James took his place at the house. The man pushed open the door of his home with trepidation and was greeted by his wife's warm embrace. She doesn't notice anything, which dispels the last vestiges of James' unease. Only the dog notices his master's abnormality and barks at him. Unfortunately, the dog couldn't speak, but he was the only one who really remembered him. On the other side of the room, Cameron silently watched the images coming back from his contact lenses. He watched as James accompanied his son, and watched as it bridged the gap between himself and his wife. As he watched, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. As he watched, he closed his eyes in pain. After all, he was a bystander in that happy family. Time passed slowly and steadily. Kate's life was coming to an end. Cameron appeared to be relaxed, seemingly indifferent to life and death, but in reality, he was becoming more and more anxious. Recently, James' behavior has become more and more erratic, often taking off his contact lenses to prevent Cameron from observing their lives. Cameron doesn't know what he's thinking or how his wife and kids are doing. The doctors said it meant James was officially a family man, and that their plan was a success. It was hard not being able to see his family as often as he wanted, but he chose to compromise for the sake of his wife and son's future. Until the night Cameron dreamt that James was angry with his son, which made him more and more agitated. He went to the observation room and stared at James in the screen, trying to see something in his eyes. What he didn't realize was that James, who seemed to be aware of his observation, took off his contact lenses once again. Cameron couldn't hold back any longer. He snuck home when the doctor wasn't looking to see how they were doing. But he couldn't let his wife and children find out, because that would put an end to his plans. He went to his studio and saw James painting. He saw James painting of a free-flying man, which gave him a little peace of mind. Then he switched on his computer and looked at James' chats with his wife. The content of the dialogue was sparse and ordinary, so ordinary that it was only a simple daily meal. But this life had become his unattainable dream. As he watched, James appeared. It was easy to see in Cameron's eyes that he was angry with him for taking off his glasses so many times. James could also read the sadness in his angry eyes. They share the same genes, so he knows Cameron's arrival is not just to check on the situation. He silently handed the ring back to his essence, and then quietly ducked into the storage room, leaving him to say his final goodbyes to his wife and son. Cameron went to his son's bedroom and gently woke up his sleeping son. He then took him into the living room and poured him his first beer. The beer was bitter and hard to swallow, but with the best food to go with it, there was something special about it. As James watched the scene in the utility room, he could not help but feel some of the same feelings. What was so ordinary was so precious to Cameron. He looked at his son's tender face and then took him into his arms. When he thought that he would never be able to watch his son grow from menace to youthful rebellion and then to the responsible age of becoming a family man, his heart immediately surged with endless sadness. Waiting for his mood to calm down, he went to his wife's bedroom, gently woke up his sleeping wife. Looking at her teary-eyed husband, Cleary soon realized that he was upset. Cameron reassured her that he had had a terrible nightmare. Cleary didn't choose to press the issue, but instead gave her husband a comforting hug. Unfortunately, what she didn't know was that the nightmare's name was reality. After a long moment of silence, Cameron asked his wife if she was happy with her current life. When he saw Cleary nodding in the affirmative, he finally smiled a relieved smile. He wished that time could stop at this moment and that he could be with his wife and children forever. But destiny is always cruel and will make countless people who love each other to be separated. Luckily, technology gave him the chance to make amends so that he could carry all his sorrows alone and step quietly into the darkness of the night. After his wife and son had fallen asleep again, he gave the ring to James. He finally gave everything to his clone, who would carry his will with him as he accompanied his family into the distance. Afterwards, Cameron returned forlornly to the doctor's secret base and waited alone for death to come. This is a story about human cloning and an exploration of love and death. If such technology really appears in the future, what choice would you make? I'm BullDog Movie. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.